HasanAbi corporate. I don't even know what that is.
Actually, Fox News did have a number of positive reactions to Friday's jobs reports. Here is Larry Kudlow, a top White House economic advisor under former President Donald Trump.
I know many of my conservative friends are trying to drill holes in this report. But you know what, folks? It is what it is. It's a very strong report. Not every economic stat should be viewed through a political lens. I've been in this business a very long time, and sometimes you just have to throw away the ballot box and just recognize the numbers. They are what they are. This was a very strong report.
That's so funny that they're sad. There is nothing funnier than watching a Republican be sad openly. That, like, the jobs numbers look good. That's so crazy, man. Anyway, the real reason why a booming economy isn't boosting Biden's approval numbers is because we already mentioned that for the most part, under the Biden regime, under the Biden agenda, the economy wasn't booming, okay? Real negative wages for far too long under the Brandon agenda, and the economy still hasn't perfectly recovered from that. People still remember that. You could say that that wasn't Brandon's issue. That was actually Trump's fault. Fair, but it doesn't matter. People recognize it as Brandon's fault. And not only that, but also the major reason why the booming economy isn't boosting Biden's approval numbers is because people associate Biden with being old. So they look at all the bad things and they say, Brandon did that because he's asleep at the wheel. And they look at some of the good things. If they do start recognizing that things are good, then they're going to be like, well, that's not Brandon. Because guess what? Brandon too old. He didn't do any of the good things. He only did all the bad things because he fell asleep at the wheel. So that's it. And I don't know how you can fix that. I don't know. You can't make him young. Okay? You can't hit him with a young ray. You can't do that. He's too old.
There you go.
All right, Friday's numbers showed the U.S. economy added 353,000 jobs last month. Economists had predicted gains around 185,000. So that's a lot more than expected. But despite continued strong economic data, new polling from NBC News shows just 36% of registered voters approve of how President Joe Biden has handled the economy. And when asked who they would trust more to handle the economy, 55% said Donald Trump, compared to 33% who said Biden.
So, Jonathan Lemire, the numbers are stark, despite the good numbers in the economy. And let's keep that one up right there, 55 to 33. Why? What's the Biden White House's explanation, and what are they going to do about it?
I was speaking to some senior aides at the end of last.
You're covering it? What do you mean I'm covering it? I'm covering it because this is huge. The latest polling results show that on every top issue, I'm covering the percentages. Oh, I thought you meant like I'm covering the story. You were like, oh, why are you covering the story is what I thought. God, my brain is so broken. I just think like everyone is being a fucking cynical enemy, dude. Holy shit. That's crazy. This is what has happened to me. Okay. Once a beautiful mind, it's all gone. You need to go to therapy. I need to quit streaming permanently. The only thing that's keeping me alive right now on the streaming front is like the celebration that it would cause the likes of like Keemstar adjacent content creators and Keemstar himself and all of his disgusting neck-bearded gross fans. So I mean, I'll die on this goddamn chair before I hand them a W. It's spite, baby, all day, every day. I know you're philosophically opposed to the idea, but sub-only mode would help sometimes. Not necessarily. Why are your lips so thick? It's because I kiss your mom. Your biggest haters are subs, to be honest. That's true, yeah.
This week about this very matter, and they're still confident that they can turn this narrative around. That they point to the jobs report, this other strong economic metrics. Most importantly, they feel consumer sentiment. They feel like people are feeling better about the economy, and that translates usually into votes for the incumbent, the president who's overseeing that strong economy. But at least for now, there is a disconnect between Americans who now are starting to think better about how things feel economically, but they're not giving the White House any credit. There's
Can you speak on what the polling shows shit? Why can they get a larger sample size than 100 or 1,000? First of all, 1,000 is a perfectly valid sample size. and they don't do sampling on 100 people.
That is something they need to work on. That's about messaging. That's about salesmanship. That's certainly something this White House is going to do. Now, some aides say to me that they feel like that inherently Americans will vote for the incumbent even if they're not in love with that person, if they feel economically stable. And that's where we're trending right now. Also, we heard from Jerome Powell over the weekend in a rare interview suggesting the rate cut's still coming. They might be delayed somewhat because of, frankly, the strong jobs number and other measures, but there's still probably 3 cuts.
Bro, every meme on TikTok is about how expensive groceries are. What are they smoking? Yeah, the point is inflation is always going to happen. It's just that you're supposed to manage the inflation, which means that prices are still going to go up. But by how much? That's the major point of contention here. Inflation being limited now, which it did. The soft landing did happen. Okay, shouts out to the econ boys. That was true. Inflation does not mean, inflation going away does not mean deflation. Okay? Inflation being manageable simply means that prices will still go up. It's just that it just won't go up by so much. Now, that's number one. Number two, and perhaps more importantly, is that inflation is supposed to go up alongside your wages increasing. And people, I think, don't recognize or don't choose to recognize, for some weird reason, that people's wages have not matched the rate of growth for the things costing more overall. Now, wages have gone up, but not your take-home pay. What does this mean? Well, yeah, your wages are technically going up because one of the things that your bosses are paying for, or you're paying with your working hours, is your insurance. So health insurance has gone up. So when health insurance goes up, that all of a sudden magically has this effect of making it seem like your wages have gone up, but it doesn't translate to more dollars in your pocket at the end of the fucking day. So technically your purchasing power has not gone up. So when that happens, like your real purchasing power of groceries has not gone up. So now all of a sudden you're in a situation where like everyone keeps telling you, no, your shit's great actually. Your shit's awesome. The fuck are you talking about? Like, what do you mean? Your situation is great. Look at the wage growth. 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 And it's like, okay, I see that, but I don't see it in my pocket. Make this make sense. And economists, for some reason, some of which do see this reality, I think, others that don't see this reality because they're fucking out of touch, will just be like, these guys are so dumb. They don't recognize that this is not a real thing. They don't recognize. They're so stupid. They don't recognize that their fucking wages have gone up. Now, even if their purchasing power and their take-home pay had gone up, for the record, there's also a second problem here. Weirdly enough, all these econ boys who cover the economy all the goddamn time don't see this. I don't know why. But even if your take-home pay went up alongside inflation, it's going to take you a long-ass time to start recognizing that. That's why whenever Democrats come in and like try to balance the budget or whatever and fix the economy, quote unquote, the Republicans that come afterwards always take credit for a healthy economy, which they end up inevitably turning around and breaking once again, only for the Democrats to come back in and try to fix, only to be able to fix by the end of the fucking 4-year period or 8-year period, only to have the motherfucking Republicans come back, take advantage of a healthier economy and fuck it up again. And people don't recognize that it is happening under the Democratic administration. It has to fit perfectly within the boundaries of the Republican administration so that I guess people can recognize that it's a consequence of the Republican Party that did this. Donald Trump looked at cartoonishly high profits and literally gave them a supercharger in the form of a ginormous tax cut for the corporations and the wealthy. That is inflationary. Here's what's deflationary. At a time when like the economy deserves to be cooled down a little bit, you can do fiscal policy. He did do fiscal policy. He did the fiscal policy in the only direction that people do fiscal policy in this goddamn country, which is fucking tax cuts. It's so dumb. And guess what, by the way? The worst part about this, or the funniest but saddest part about this, is that those tax cuts were marginal for you. If you were under the top marginal tax rate, those tax cuts were tiny for you. They were minuscule. And now they don't even exist. You know whose tax cuts are permanent, though? Mine, motherfucker. motherfucker, mine and corporations. Only the top marginal tax rate and the corporate tax rate cuts were made permanent. Every other fucking tax cut trickled out. They expired. You were already saving like $5 anyway at the end of the year. Now you don't even save those $5. It's like a ticking time bomb. How many rich dudes do you think lie about ever being Democrats and then vote for Trump for tax cuts? No, that. I don't even think you need to vote for Trump for tax cuts. I think Democrats will offer it to you as well, if need be. Nah, it's bullshit. Dude, I'm telling you right now, the only reason why you vote for the Republicans is because you're like openly racist. If you're secretly racist, just vote for the Democrats. They do the racist shit too. And on top of that, they do pretty much all the deregulation and shit that the Republicans want to do. They also engage in. It's like, it makes no goddamn sense. It makes no sense to be a Republican in this fucking country. The Democrats give you everything you want. Unless you want to be able to like scream for the rooftops that you love the Confederacy or something. And like, you just want teenagers that were like victims and wanted to get an abortion. Then you're like, oh, that's all right. The Republican Party is my party, brother. You don't understand it. Watt power. I love it. I love my cousin.
This year, and that would certainly boost the economy as well, and that could be even, frankly, well timed for this president as he heads into the re-election, which are so often economic referendums on the incumbent.
Well, and Elise, you look at the numbers. Obviously, a lot of Democrats panicking, as Democrats do. We're in the beginning of February. Long way to go. Joe Biden's numbers are very low. These are, and this is, you know, there was an FT article on this last week.
Ripped ass.
I think that we talked about. Donald Trump could win. Who knows? Maybe he wins in a landslide.
Hooters.
Not saying he's not. I am saying, though, if you look at numbers across the West, you see leaders that have low approval ratings. You saw Emmanuel Macron when he was going into re-election with approval ratings in the low to mid 30s. He ended up with 58% of the vote. I just think staring at approval ratings and panicking about February polls, that's just time wasted.
No, and so much can happen from now until November. And you
That's
look
the part
at
to worry
what
about.
really matters more than anything. Our price is going to go down. Not just inflation, gradually trending down, but our price is going to go down. And I think that's what's really hurting Joe Biden right now, because unlike the stock market, every American is impacted by rising prices. And so to be going out there and have your message be Bidenomics and that everything is fine and dandy, it's not the way that they should be messaging this. We feel your pain. We know it's been a tough time, but things are trending in the right direction.
Is Morning Joe sucking Brandon's? What the fuck is this? What are you talking about? That's like their whole thing. It's MSNBC, dog. That's what we do. That's what we do out here. What are you talking about? This is all MSNBC is. It's just like Fox News dictates policy for the Republican Party. MSNBC simply gets their notes from DNC and the Democratic Party and just defends it. Sure, Fox News will also defend the Republican Party or the Republican Party figureheads, especially during an election year. But having said that, they also have the capacity to dictate what the Republican Party's policy should be. Tucker Carlson used to do this all the time. Now he's trying to interview Vladimir Putin like the little Klaus shark he is. Also, this show quite literally is his own Fox and Friends, as Empty Rian Max says. This show that we're watching right now, Morning Joe, is his own Fox and Friends. Like, you know how Trump used to watch Fox and Friends? Yeah.
Direction. The fundamentals are good. It's getting better. I just think that it's come across, the Biden administration's messaging has come across as tone deaf on the economy, and there just needs to be a little shift of acknowledging that Americans have been really hurting.
Yeah, let's bring in right now the president of the National Action Network and the host of MSNBC's Politics Nation, Reverend Al Sharpton. Rev, I want to talk about the wars. There are a couple of wars that are raging right now. It's distracting for people. I know you brought it up the other day on our show that you have people saying, hey, listen, I support the president, but we're spending a lot of money overseas. I look at the news. There's a lot of news about what's going on overseas. I want people to help me here at home. You're hearing that, and I'm just wondering, how much, despite a strong economy, how much are these wars distracting from what the president's doing?
I think a lot of it is distracting. When people look at the fact that you see the economy may be inching up, but prices are not going down, and people are still kind of trying to make ends meet. And then they see these big.
The dick riding is out of control, dude. It's out of control. The eating on Morning Joe. I didn't realize that MSNBC was in the game of doing pornos, okay?
Billions of dollars.
They're just like, yeah, all of this is a distraction. Mr. Brandon has the fattest, okay? He is so hard and he thrusts it so good. And I love it when he puts in, okay? I love it when he puts it in. And the people are, these wars are distracting. The economy's a distraction. It's just fucking awesome.
Going abroad, even for legitimate reasons. They say, but what about me? Why are we spending all of this money, whether it's in Ukraine, whether it's in the Middle East, whether it's wherever? And it seems like I feel like I'm a second thought. And I think the politics of that is reflected by these startling polls for the Biden camp this weekend. Is people feel neglected. It's not that people may disagree that we should be on the right side of international conflict.
My mom's in the car, bro. Okay, well, your mom is currently listening to Al Sharpton take Biden's pee-pee, okay? So me basically describing the terms and conditions of Al Sharpton's sucking operation is not going to change the reality of Al Sharpton sucking extra hard. Guac, guac, 9,000. You know what I mean?
People want to feel like, wait a minute, I'm a priority.
I think President Biden is actually a very good sort of teacher on this front about not just the respect for democracy here at home, Rev, but for stability in the world and for the, promoting democracy around the world. I just wonder, does the White House need to focus on the explaining part? We were talking to Jeremy Bash about this earlier. As much as our participation in Israel and Ukraine is definitely draining resources and time, that it is vital to stability of the world and ultimately America as a superpower, Rev.
I think that they must make the.
It's so funny because Mika's dad openly said that the Israeli authorities, Mika Brzezinski's dad is Zbigniew Brzezinski. So I didn't say his name correctly, but he was a formative, Zbigniew Brzezinski. There's no way I'm going to say it correctly. That's insane. Polish names are impossible to say. But yes, he worked in the Carter regime, and he is, or at least was hyped about like basically creating the Mujahideen and the Taliban, because he brought the Russians into their own personal Vietnam, in his words. But that guy very openly was telling Joe, before Joe and Mika got married, by the way, on the Morning Joe show, that Joe was a fucking dumbass for constantly complaining about Palestinians actually eviscerating negotiations with Israel, and literally openly to his face said, Joe, you're stupid. You don't know what the fuck you're talking about. I'm literally Zbigniew Brzezinski, okay? And I'm right, that it was actually Israel that fucking butchered the negotiations, the round of negotiations. Yes, that's Mika Brzezinski's father. Fucking alphaed him in his own goddamn show. God, I can't watch the rest of this. This is so fucking stupid.